The Boy Who Sailed the Ocean in an Armchair. Chapter 15. Ever since Dad mentioned the party last week, he has talked of nothing else. He's been saying, I'd better buy 1,000,000 pork pies for all the guests that will be attending. In the end, I found out it was 11, including us. So by my reckoning, he doesn't need 999,989 of those pork pies. He's bought spotty bunting and balloons too. We blew the balloons up earlier, and I thought they'd been made of rhino hide. They were so hard to blow up. In the end, I was grateful I was still alive to attend the party and hadn't burst the air sacs in my lungs. Right now, those same balloons are floating across the floor like oily bubbles, and the 11 pork pies that Dad bought are sitting on a paper plate in the kitchen, along with quiche, crisps, buns and sandwiches. All we need now are some guests. Everything is going to be brilliant, says Billy, stretching out his arms and looking up and spinning around until he drops into a heap onto the floor. I don't answer him. To be honest, I don't think everything is going to be brilliant, not after hearing Dad on the phone to Pearl over a week ago. But I don't want to burst Billy's bubble. Although last night I did accidentally burst his helium balloon from that shopping trip we had. Who lets a slightly deflated horse float about in the dark? I went to the toilet in the middle of the night, and when something floated from behind the door, thought it was a ghost. It was only after I put my fingernails in its head that I realised what it was. This morning, when I told Dad what had happened, he just laughed and said it was your classic nightmare. You know why it's going to be brilliant? Billy grins. No, I don't know. But I have a feeling Billy is going to tell me. I pause as Billy continues. Because I invited Pearl. Sweet baby cheeses. If I was prone to fainting, I would be in a heap on the floor. I stutter. You are joking, am I right? You are wrong. I need time for this to sink in. By time, I mean a millennium. Then Billy corrects himself and says he didn't invite Pearl after all. Just as my body is relaxing, he says, I didn't invite Pearl. Brian did. Oh, for the love of Lego. Billy continues that last week Brian encouraged him to borrow my phone while I was in the toilet, and Brian left a message asking Pearl to come to the party. I bark. Brian cannot talk. Brian said you'd say that. Oh, I cannot speak to Billy anymore. I have to actually walk away and bang my head on a wall, which is very hard, and I have to stop because I cannot afford to lose any brain cells, since I'm the only one in this family with any to start with. Dad zooms past me and then begins dancing like no one is watching, which, in my opinion, is a bad thing. All people should dance like someone is watching. That way, they wouldn't be awful. Right now, Dad is pirouetting like a baby elephant. He has accidentally pulled some of the bunting down and it looks like a triangular wig. In his hand is a can of beer, and when his hand wobbles, wee-coloured liquid sloshes onto the carpet. When Dad realises, he mouths, whoops, and smudges the wet patch with his toe. Then he skitters into the kitchen, pulling down the sleeve of his jumper and using the fabric as an oven mitt to bring out a tray of steaming hot baby sausages. To be honest, I'm no Einstein, although I'm the closest this family has got to him, but I don't think the jumper will work as an oven mitt. This is confirmed when Dad slams the tray down and begins blowing on his fingers and dancing around again, only this time I think it's more pain than party. I think you're very silly, Daddy, announces Billy. I am, replies Dad, but it's all good. Why worry about a few tiny blisters on my fingers when there's a whole heap of fun to be had? Daddy will stop being a big boo-boo when Pearl gets here, whispers Billy, when we go back into the living room with a bowl of prawn cocktail crisps. When Pearl gets here, everything will be okay and Snoop will be the winners. And it'll all be because of Brian. I lean over and whispered in Billy's ear, You can't rely on Pearl to come. I don't want you getting your hopes up. I think back to Dad's phone call from Pearl over a week ago. There's no way that he's in any mood to meet up with Pearl, and definitely not by surprise like this. But it's obvious that Billy's hopes are so high, they're on a ladder halfway to heaven. What's more, I've obviously made him angry by suggesting she might not show up because he pushes me away and says no Snoop member would say anything like that. Then he snatches the prawn cocktail crisps, drags up a chair and plonks himself where he has a view straight down the hallway to the front door. Pearl will come, he echoes. At that very moment, there's a knock at the door. Billy looks at me, and I look at him. Dad yells that he'll get it, and I have to yell back that I'll get it, because Dad needs to look after those blisters he's just got before they get infected and turn into big, green, pus-filled sacks of goo that could lead to impetigo, which is a very infectious and requires antibiotics. And sometimes antibiotics don't even work. Dad doesn't answer me back, but I hear him frantically banging cupboards and muttering about antiseptic spray as I race towards the front door, Billy following me. A millisecond later, I reach for the door and fling it open. It's Kat, and she is all smiles and carrying a tray of funny little pastry circles. Vol au vent, she says. Billy says he can only speak one language. English, you mean, Kat says as she enters the hallway. No, replied Billy, snail. Kat almost creases up and says, "Oh, Billy, you're one of a kind." She's got that right. Today, Kat looks different. She's all smart and wearing a flouncy black dress dotted with these tiny red ladybirds, which Billy likes very much. Around her neck, she wears a thin red satin ribbon, and she's tied it in a dainty bow to the side. Her hair is all red and glossy, like the newly washed bonnet of a car, and she's got these funny little black flicky lines drawn on her eyes that really make her look like Catwoman. Dad wobbles towards Kat and says she's a sight for sore eyes. The scent of antiseptic is coming off him, but everyone pretends not to notice. Dad glances down at Kat's tray and says how much he loves vol au vents before leading Kat towards the kitchen, his bum cheeks doing a tiny salsa on the way. Dad has propped the door onto the street open with a plastic haddock from the back of his van, which means everyone can come up to the party without having to buzz. There are several more knocks at the front door. 10 minutes later. If I was writing up the guests we now have in attendance, it would take me about 30 seconds. We have Dad, who is insisting on doing the hokey cokey, only when he's supposed to put his left leg in, he makes a mistake and uses his right, kicking Kat in the shin and nearly sending her plate of food into the air. We have Kat, who is now limping around asking for ice. Dad asks, for her drink? No, apparently for her shin. We have 3 fish delivery blokes. Let's just call them Flounder, Skate and Soul. A 4th and 5th turn up, and it's obvious the 4th loves himself because he talks very loudly. Let's just call him Brill. The 5th looks well shifty, with a dodgy haircut. Small-eyed Ray for him, although it was a toss-up between that name and thick-lipped grey mullet. We have 2 women from a restaurant Dad delivers to. They're standing in the corner talking about mussels, Mussels, or mussels, Muscles. I don't know which. Then there's Billy, who is back on his seat, watching the front door. Pearl's going to come, he repeats over and over. And me. And I keep saying that Pearl might not. She will, because I said Dad had won the lottery. I tell Billy we haven't won the lottery. Actually, scrap that. I screech that we haven't won the lottery. Why would you leave Pearl a message like that? Okay, now I'm so angry I could punch a hole in a hole punch. Are you completely doolally Bill Rumsey? The flipping lottery. This takes the biscuit. Like we're millionaires now who happen to be living in a crummy 2-bed flat. Yeah, because so many millionaires do that, and so many millionaires drive an old van with a plastic cod on it instead of a Lamborghini. Oh, and we eat from Mr. Wong's, or the Giggling Squid Chippy, or the Burger She Wrote burger van, and we're beating off those other millionaires to get to the onion rings first. Daddy won £10, said Bill, frowning at me. He pauses and then continues, on a scratch card. Sweet baby Jesus! The penny drops from the height of Kilimanjaro. Oh, I reply, piping right down. I suppose he did. But it was ages ago and it was only £10 and we spent it on a takeaway. Oh yeah, replies Billy. I've got to tell Pearl that. I like the prawn toast though. Billy adds that we might win the lottery again soon. Does that count? No, it doesn't. I glance over at Dad, who, according to Billy, should be holding one of those giant cheques with loads of zeros on it. Instead, he's headbutting balloons and doing the cant, which is Dad's own version of the can. I hear the door go again, sprint down the hallway, followed by Billy. As they open the door, Billy's mouth drops open and he shouts, "Pearl, I knew you'd come." "Fancy seeing you here, and how lovely that you're having a party," says Pearl, smiling at me and handing me a bottle of wine. "Trust your dad to have a party on a Tuesday." Always was daft. "I suppose it's to celebrate your lottery win." She plays with a large ring on her little finger that looks like a spoonful of amber-coloured jelly. "Oh, yeah," says Billy, rushing towards Pearl and clinging to her like a spider monkey. I got mixed up. "We won exactly £10. I finished Billy's sentence for him. "But you're here now, so it doesn't matter." I feel a rush of excitement when I reach out to hug Pearl. She feels warm and smells of coconut and summer sunshine. I remember how it used to be, having her around the house. I think about how Pearl would let us paint pictures using her special tubes of paint that Billy called gouache, and how she picked us up from school and take us to the sweet shop on a Friday. And if we were sick, she'd give us white syrup on a spoon and tuck us up in bed. She'd come to school nativities too, even the time when Billy was the innkeeper and told Joseph and Mary there was no room at the inn. But Pearl pulls away. I didn't know where you'd run off to until I got Billy's phone call last week, and he left me a message about this party, about crops and bobbers. Anyway, I took down the details and I drove straight here after my painting class at Tower Point. Spluttering, I tried to tell Pearl that we texted her, but she didn't respond. Pearl looked vaguely surprised and says she didn't get the texts. But I don't believe her because there's a tiny twitch at the corner of her lip. Billy is so excited it's like he's drunk 10 fruit squashes all at once. He wants to show Pearl his pet snail, who helped him contact her. But Pearl is telling him she doesn't want to see the snail unless it's on a plate and covered in a herby butter sauce. "Oh," says Billy, and then his face brightens as he realises it was probably a joke. Only judging by Pearl's face now, I don't think it was. "I knew you wouldn't leave us," adds Billy, hopping about from one foot to the other. I can see a spark of happiness in his eyes, and I feel the same until Pearl grimaces. Her voice is as dry as a flip-flop in the Sahara. "I didn't leave you. You left me, didn't you? Now where's your father?" There's a big whoop from the living room. "That's our father. I know that whoop anywhere." Pearl marches straight into the living room and sees Dad hand in hand with Cat as he limbo under a kitchen broom. I didn't even know we had a broom. We've never used it. They're both snorting with laughter as they fall onto the floor together in one big mass of frothy red net from Cat's skirt. Someone changes the music, and suddenly Dad, whose arms and legs are tangled up octopus style with Cat's, looks up and sees Pearl towering over him, arms folded. There's a moment when his jaw drops so low he could fit the world's biggest gobstopper in there and still have room for a watermelon. Thank you.